15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Is that Shakespeare?
Nope, it's Geico.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare from one of his unpublished works. Oh, it be not for awakening. Nay, giveth thou the berries. For 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
No, it's from Geico, because they help save people money.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Geico got it from Shakespeare.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Mattress Warehouse knows that buying a mattress can be tough. With so many choices, where do you start? Introducing Bed Match, a patented diagnostic system that determines your pressure points and recommends the mattresses that are best for your individual sleep needs. And it's found only at Mattress Warehouse. Come try Bed Match at a Mattress Warehouse near you. Visit sleephappens.com for locations and get free next day delivery on select purchases.
Mattress Warehouse, sleephappens.com.
Outkick the coverage live every weekday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 3 to 6 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio. Find your local station for Outkick the coverage at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every morning on the iHeartRadio app by searching FSR.
Now let's get this party started.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Well, we got ourselves a series, ladies and gentlemen, and we will get into all the details, including somebody who can no longer complain for the rest of their career about what went on. That coming up here just a couple of moments from now.
Are you talking about Brady?
He's LeVar Arrington. That guy's Brady Quinn. I'm Jonas Knox. It's Outkick the coverage here, Fox Sports Radio. You can hang out with us on the iHeartRadio app. You can find us on hundreds of Fox Sports Radio affiliates, and wherever you are making us a part of your Thursday morning, welcome in. And let's have some damn fun until 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Pacific. Guys, we got a live golf event from a course somewhere overseas that looks really depressing.
With a yellow flag.
Yeah, it's really depressing,
Maybe
man.
that's what Brady's complaining about.
Yeah,
is that what you're complaining about,
See,
Brady?
here's the deal. LeVar hasn't worked this long enough to understand your stick, Jonas. LeVar jumps in a couple days a week, and then he doesn't understand what you do.
Oh.
See, LeVar, Jonas projects things.
Okay.
He projects things that he got wrong yesterday.
Oh, like his prediction projection.
Yes, and then he
he
makes it like I said it. For example, he's been complaining about the fouls all throughout the NBA Finals.
Well, there were complaints last night about lack 100%. Of calls or calls.
And I haven't been. I told him I don't care about that because I think it evens out over the course of the series. He's been complaining about fouls and free throws. By the way, I thought last night's game was the best game of the series so far.
It's awesome.
Nice. It was awesome. It was very competitive. And look, and you could make a case that when the Booker foul that ultimately took him out, foul number 5, it changed the momentum. But the reality is there was a foul that wasn't called that he shouldn't have been in the game probably anyway. The one on P.J. Tucker that wasn't called. Yeah. So, I'm not here to debate calls. That's for Jonas to try to make up for everything he said the past 3 games.
I see it.
All right,
I see what you just did,
let me tell you, that's it,
LeVar. You got to start tuning in Monday through Wednesday because these are the conversations we're having that he puts on me.
I'm feeling your shtick going on right now. Like I feel the brotherly shtick going on right now.
I'm just trying to do a sports talk
radio show.
They made
a movie about this. It had Will Ferrell.
Yeah, I mean, look. See, here's the problem. Here's the problem, LeVar. Brady was dead set and convinced that Giannis Antetokounmpo was going to score over 34.5 points, and it didn't happen.
All right. Now I'm gonna have to tweet out the text messages. Do you want me to put you on blast? Do you want me to put you on blast?
Okay. All right. You want me to own it? I screwed up again. All right, I'm bad at making picks. All right, I'm bad at making picks, and I thought for sure the only shot the Milwaukee Bucks would have had in this series is if Giannis goes off every single game. He put up back-to-back 40 burgers, and then he came out last night. He was pretty good, but he wasn't nearly as good as he was in games 2 and 3. I just didn't expect Chris Middleton to play well, and for Drew Holiday to come up with big-time plays late, and Brady's guy Pat Connaughton from Notre Dame to hit a big-time 3 in the corner. All right, so I screwed up.
Do you guys want me to give you the synopsis and the conclusion I've just drawn from this moment of conversation?
What's that?
That Brady Quinn would make one hell of an interrogator, and I will never, ever do anything around you, Jonas. Because you sound like a singing snitch just
listen,
now.
look,
you got me. Listen, everybody, come on out. Come from down around the trees. They got us. Jonas, they got you.
Well, it's the paranoia.
The thing is, LeVar, think about what Jonas did in the beginning. He literally pitted you the entire show so far against me,
you.
Thinking
he did.
That, and really, the only thing I texted Jonas last night was under. That's the only bet I like in this. And then I texted him about halfway through, how's it looking? And he goes, in the bag. Then he started texting me some other picks that he made. And I don't know that any
it's
hit.
in the bag.
Did you hit the Bucks pick, Jonas? I think you got the Bucks. I think you laid the points for the Bucks.
Milwaukee -4.5 was a good pick.
You got that one.
But seriously though, when have we been able to depend on Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday to come up big?
We have not so far in the series.
So my whole thinking was the only chance Milwaukee had was that Giannis was going to go off, and if he went off, I felt like they've got a real opportunity. I also said this. If Milwaukee wins, whoever wins Game 4 wins the series.
That was the message I saw.
I think Milwaukee's winning the series. I am convinced after what I saw last night. I think they're winning this series because, and I'm more convinced now, because they were able to win a game in which Giannis didn't play all-world, 40-plus points, most dominant player in the series and in the world, and they were able to come up with a win.
Back-to-back.
Yeah.
And they protected serve. I mean, who's going to be able to win on the road? I think that's the biggest question. I said earlier that this Suns team came in, they were loose, they were confident. I think that the Milwaukee Bucks allowed for them to come out in Game 1 and gain some real early confidence. And I thought that would carry them to a really seemingly easy final series. Lo and behold, Milwaukee just needed to feel the energy of being at home, and Giannis just didn't need to hear the fans counting every single time that he's taking a shot. Who knew that would make the difference 2 games in a row, and who knew that Middleton would catch fire the way that he did? I thought what you said, your prediction was spot on just based upon the lack of assertiveness and really execution from Middleton and guys like Drew Holiday. It just seemed as though they were shrinking in the size of what this series represented, but man, they made a series of it.
Yeah.
So it's game on.
What was going on with Giannis early in that game? Because he didn't seem as assertive. He seemed like he was almost out of breath. I even think the announcers talked about it at one point. Like he went out of the game, I think, in the first quarter, he literally subbed out with, 9 minutes left?
Yeah.
I mean, there was something going on. Him and then Chris Paul. Chris Paul could not stop turning the basketball over, something that's very uncharacteristic for him. That was kind of the one thing looking at the game, thinking back. I was like, well, I'm not really sure what was going on with those two guys.
Yeah, the Chris Paul, he did not play well at points down the stretch. Devin Booker.
He carried him yesterday.
Listen, I don't want to hear Devin Booker bitch about another foul call the rest of his career. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want. Guy had 7 fouls. He literally he finished the game with 7 fouls, and there was no possible way they were taking him out. And the officials during the pool report afterwards, and I don't know how anybody feels about the pool report because it actually that bothers me. The pool report afterwards, they asked the official, so what happened there on that play? He goes, I didn't see that he had made contact the way that he did. So upon further review, that should have been a foul call, and it would have been his 6th foul. All right. Well, what about the other one that should have been his 7th? All right. Do you want to have a comment on that?
Tell us how you feel, Jonas.
Okay. What's the point of talking to these officials after the game and saying, hey, did you screw that call up? Because they can't go back in time and fix it. So what's the point? I don't understand. Like, why is it even necessary?
It's great entertainment.
Oh, man.
That's all it is.
It gives us ammunition.
It's so good. I mean, let's be honest.
Maybe that's what it is,
I mean, most times you got to think that, referees are going to have a narcissistic type of approach to how they do things. Like, screw you if you don't think that I made the right call. It's the call. It is what it is. I'm trained. You're not. Stop trying to do my job. I'll do it the way that I need to do it. Right? But the guy came out and said that he didn't get it right. Good for him. I messed it up. He had
hold on.
You
Hey,
know?
there's someone else who can't keep bitching about the fouls, though, is Jonas. Jonas, are you going to continue berating these officials the rest of the NBA Finals?
Yes.
It sounds like you're committed to it.
And let me tell you why. And that's a good point, Lamar. I determined early on in the series, since everyone wants to complain about the markets that are involved and the ratings and all this stuff, I said, all right, I got to pick a lane here. And the lane I'm going down is burying the officials, because that's the one market that plays nationally is the officials. And if we can bury the officials in a league that had a guy gambling on games and fixing games, if we can go that route, I think it's fun for everybody involved.
Let it go.
It's great family entertainment, Brady.
LeVar, I do have to ask you this, though.
What you got?
Which officiating crew in your mind is worse? Because the NBA seems to skate under the radar all the time.
Because they're more, basketball players are more like pampered and catered to. We're not. Only you guys, the quarterbacks are, but we're, everybody else, So I'm going to go with football. I know exactly where you were going.
Yep.
Football referee crews are the worst. And I'll tell you why. Because some of them have played ball before. So every once in a while, you'll get a crew like one of my guys, one of my alums, Terry Killens is a referee, and you guys remember not too many seasons ago there was that like rumble that took place on the sideline, and you saw the referee run in and start like grabbing people off of the pile, like discarding them like he was a player himself. Well, he was a player, so it's kind of funny because you get like the ad hocules and all those guys, and they're all yoked up, so they're out there on the field like, this is a call. Get out of my face. Do you see these muscles? I will body slam your ass. I'll body you after this call. And then you'll get fined. You'll get beat up by ad hoculi, and then they'll fine you. So I 100% think that football referees are the worst.
Hold on. Completely off topic, though. Completely off topic.
Yeah.
You know the guys who come out and check the uniforms before the games to then give you the fines?
Merton was doing that. Merton Hanks was doing that when I was in.
They're the guys that let Eli Manning get away with basically lying and frauding people out of real jerseys.
No, not those
sorry
guys.
About that. I thought my mic was
these
off.
guys will make sure like you're wearing the right socks or whatever else. Yeah, and you're getting like you're being told before the game, right? Like we're talking about multi-million dollars in gambling and everything else, and then people are telling you, hey, you got to go change your socks. But those guys tend to be former players. You got to take those
spikes off.
I'm always like, say it ain't so. Every time I see a former player that does it, I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you fighting us, man?
Well, you can't wear those gloves. Like,
yes.
What? you got to take those wristbands off. Like, what?
So Merton Hanks, the guy who basically broke his neck every time he celebrated a touchdown.
And wore swag. And wore swag. By the way, was not like dry, like, oh yeah, you would be the fashion police on the field. Merton Hanks did the same stuff Dion did. Had do-rags on, had the headbands around his neck. He did everything Dion did. But he was on the sideline like, yeah, man, sorry to tell you this, but
and what was
the color is too low on your sock.
LeVar, your neck roll, it's too big. It's not within the standards of what we allow.
Then you get to Monday or Tuesday, whatever the day is, and then you get the mail, and it's like 15 G's.
I know.
You get
for your socks.
You get popped 15 G's for having
like,
a neck roll?
I'd be in my locker room like, bitch! 15 G's!
Okay, well, all right.
That's my socks!
Where's that money go? Where they do
it goes to charity. It goes to charity.
Oh, my
it's
ass,
a
it goes to charity.
It goes to charity.
Yeah.
And then it doubles.
Then
it doubles. If they pop you again, it's doubled.
Yeah.
It's doubled.
Usually you can appeal it, and you might get away with one. And then once you get a second one, that one's sticking. You can't appeal that if it's for the same offense.
I don't have Brady Quinn legs. Maybe my sock got lazy and fell down.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good point.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're out there sitting there judging me like, well, then fix your socks, dummy. It's $15,000 fine. Like, who does that? Maybe it was just because my legs didn't fill the socks as much. I got a Bears top, but I got a Cheetah's bottom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't judge me when my socks sag down to where I deserve a $15,000 fine, people.
I never understood when, like, they would expect you an hour and a half before the game to be like fully dressed in uniform.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm like, dude, I'm just warming up. Like, I don't even have socks on right now. All right, I'm trying to warm up a little bit.
Hey,
like,
you know what's crazy?
I know what to do.
Hey, I'll tell you what's crazy though. But certain teams get to do what the hell they want to do, right? Like when the Steelers come out, them dudes had their shirts all tucked up. They got their socks a certain type of way. They got different shoes.
Well, I mean,
like their patterns, their color patterns. The Giants do it too.
James Harrison showed up on a magazine cover holding assault rifles.
Yeah,
so
well, who's going to mess with him?
Yeah,
right?
who's going to say anything?
Sometimes the game isn't bigger than what people's personal deals are.
Yeah,
it is what
you remember
it is.
that there was a cover somewhere where James Harrison had guns.
Baddest man or scariest man in the NFL or something.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you think about this? LeVar said he's got guns, and he's on the cover. And he's on the cover of a major magazine with guns.
Yeah.
That means he really means it.
Yeah.
Hey, were you ever a visor guy, LeVar? Because that's the other thing now is they'll come out and warm ups
and tell you can't wear your visor.
Well, but they'll do it because it's like they're being supported by a certain brand of like visor or something.
I was told it was because of
reason.
concussions and they needed to be able to see your eyes and stuff like that.
No. That's 100% right. But I'm saying some of the players will do it just to look cool in warm-ups.
For certain.
Knowing that they've got to take it off
for the game, I used to wear visors because I got migraines. I'm a classic migrainer. So I actually got around the rule for a little while, and they allowed me to wear a black, like it was opaque, visor. And it was so cool because, everybody had their little thing. Like in Tennessee, Javon Curse, they call him, his nickname's the Freak. Yeah, so every time he'd make a play, it'd be like, oh, freak out, right? And then in Baltimore, Ray Lewis make a play, and they play, it's getting hot in here. And he started doing the dirty squirrel. Well, in D.C., when I had my visor on, I make tackles, I make plays, and they start playing, dun, 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 like I was Darth Vader out that bad boy. So, I did get away with wearing the visor for some point. Yeah.
Usually for me, they just play like a Wham song or something.
Nothing
really. Nothing fancy here. Nothing aggressive here.
Yeah, that's all good, though.
It's Outkick the Coverage.
Everybody's got their own theme song.
Listen, everybody does.
Everybody that matters.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So people, if you don't have your own theme song, you need to go find one, and then you'll matter.
Better believe it.
Right now, you just got to find it.
We are going to be here until 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Pacific. It's Brady Quinn, LeVar Arrington, Jonas Knox. It's Outkick the Coverage here, Fox Sports Radio. All right, so coming up next, one of the more bizarre stories in a long, long time in the NFL played out, and what the hell is happening? We'll get into all of that next here. Outkick the Coverage, Fox Sports Radio.
This is Outkick the Coverage.
It's crazy how much we have to pay for outdated, impersonal healthcare, and even crazier that we all just accept it. It's time to face facts. Healthcare is backwards. Luckily, there's Forward, a new approach to primary care that's surprisingly personal and refreshingly straightforward. Forward never makes you feel like just another patient. Backed by top-rated doctors and the latest tech, Forward gives you access to personalized care whenever you need it. Using in-depth genetic analysis and real-time blood work, Forward's top-rated doctors provide you with in-depth insights to better understand your genetics, mental, and physical health. They then create custom, easy-to-understand plans to help guide you to achieving long-term health. With Forward, you get unlimited in-person visits with your doctor and access to care anytime via the Forward app, all for one flat monthly fee. It's time to stop accepting backwards healthcare and start moving your health forward. Visit GoForward.com today to learn more. That's GoForward.com.
Hey, basketball fans, if you're as pumped for the Tokyo Olympics as we are, you're going to want to sign up for Peacock, the streaming service from NBC Universal. Peacock is the home for U.S. men's basketball with every Olympic game streaming live. Get excited by checking out a behind-the-scenes look at this all-star team with the Peacock original docuseries for Ball and Country. This 6-part series gives you courtside seats to the 2021 training camp in Las Vegas. Watch as Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, and others fight for the team's 4th consecutive gold medal. Plus, take a stroll down memory lane with never-before-seen footage of former Olympic players from the iconic Dream Team and Redeem Team. The U.S. men's basketball Olympic competition starts July 25th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time with their first game against France. Don't miss a minute of the action and go to PeacockTV.com to sign up now. It's Outkick the Coverage here, Fox Sports Radio. Brady Quinn, LeVar Arrington, Jonas Knox here on FSR. Coming up in, we will call it, about 10 minutes from now, a little over 10 minutes from now here on Fox Sports Radio. We are going to get back into a quarterback discussion. We're going to pick up a discussion we had a week ago because there's some skepticism about the potential return of one NFL star. So that'll be happening here coming up 10 minutes from now on Fox Sports Radio. So yesterday, the Richard Sherman story popped up out of nowhere, and it sort of came in waves to where they talked about, he was arrested for a domestic violence incident. He was. They responded to the house. He fought with the police. He was brought down by police dogs, and then there's a report of a single car accident, but the car fled the scene, and that car was registered to Richard Sherman. And then more and more the details came out, and then the 911 call of the incident came out, and this was Richard Sherman's wife trying to call in to report that her husband was having an issue, he was having a problem, and he was also suicidal.
911, what are you reporting?
I need officers to my house now. My husband is drunk and belligerent. Threatening to kill himself.
Stop. What's the address? Are there any weapons? Stop.
No, there's no gun. I'm saying there are no weapons, ma'am. He's trying to leave now in the house. He's being aggressive. He's wrestling with my uncle. He's threatening to kill himself. He has sent text messages to people saying he's going to hang himself. He's threatening to kill himself. He has sent text messages to people saying he's going to hang himself. He's saying that if the police show up, so please don't shoot is what I'm asking.
Okay, wait. Say that again.
He has no weapons.
He says if the police show up,
he said if the police show up, that he'll try to fight them.
Has it been physical with anybody there? You said he's trying to fight your uncle?
Yes, it has. Yes, it has.
How has it been physical?
He just tried to fight him. It's a 2016 black Mercedes. Richard, please stop. Richard, please stop. Please stop.
Is that a sedan, SUV?
It's just a black sedan Mercedes SUV.
Okay.
He's not going to be able to get out the gate. I cut it off.
All right. So there's obviously a lot more to that, but time purposes, we want to make sure. A lot of the feedback on that was people were not pleased with the
way that 911,
the dispatch.
Yes,
yeah,
she was rude,
very
man.
rude,
and the way she handled it,
very rude, very condescending. Like you're supposed. That is the one line where when the operator picks up. You should be very aware of the fact that if they're dialing 911, it could be a very intense situation going on. But, yeah, I'm with you on that one, Brady. I'll say this. With the whole setup of how it took place, for a wife to dial 911, she was scared to death.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And for it to get to that level of escalation. So, and listen, I'll be the first one to say I don't want to be the one that says, well, we've all been there. What I will say is I've been there. The pressures of moments in life. Who knows? I don't know why he reacted the way that he did. I don't know if it was just based upon the amount he consumed of alcohol or any substance. I have no idea. First and foremost, thoughts and prayers to the Sherman family, and hopefully everything gets worked out and Rich gets addresses what he needs to address to not have those type of moments. But make no mistake about it, you can have it happens to successful people. It happens to athletes that make a ton of money. It happens to, people that you wouldn't think this happens to, where, they have emotions. They have feelings. They feel things. We feel things. And so first thing I thought of when I heard this was it could be a isolated situation where he feels a certain type of way. He felt a certain type of way because, a substance of some sort can alter how you're feeling. Or it could have been something bigger. We could draw all kinds of different conclusions, But I think what it comes down to is stories like these become so big because we know about the mental of Richard Sherman. We've known him to be a super intelligent, well-spoken, crafty, witty person as a professional. So when you hear about something like this, it's like, whoa, that doesn't fit what we thought about Richard Sherman. And I would urge people to think that this incident doesn't define who Richard Sherman is. It's one of those things where when something like this happens in somebody's life, it doesn't get aired out on media outlets, social media outlets. It doesn't get aired out. But when somebody famous does something like this and something like this happens, it's going to be front page news that everybody has to talk about. So rather than trying to define it, Brady and Jonas, I'm not going to try to define why Richard Sherman had this moment, had this episode. All I know is that pressure hits everybody in different ways, and nobody's immune to the pressures and the rigors of what goes with living life.
Yeah, no, I actually think this is one of those moments when you realize, like, we're all human. We're all capable of making these sorts of decisions or mistakes, however you want to talk about it, and having these tough moments. And to your point, like, it's going to get highlighted because of the status of who he is, what he's accomplished, and, you know, in his career, how he's portrayed himself. But there's all elements of this in all of us. Mm-hmm. I do think this because I never in my career in the NFL got to the point where Richard Sherman has been viewed, and he's probably one of the greatest cornerbacks the NFL has seen. He was the best cornerback in the league for a period of time. Mm-hmm. You know, they had an extremely successful run in Seattle. He was there, 7 years. He didn't come into the league. If you think about his story, you know, I believe he first got to Stanford, and I think he was a wide receiver cornerback.
Yep.
Ended up becoming a cornerback, a 5th-round draft pick, if I'm not mistaken. And he ended up becoming an absolute star.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, an absolute star. And from that, you know, they go on. They really win a Super Bowl led by their defense. They get back to another Super Bowl and aren't able to win it because of, in some people's minds,
One play call. Yeah.
One play call. And at that moment, that team fractured. It was never repaired. That team broke apart. They all of a sudden started to eventually go their separate ways. And it's crazy to think about the frustration and the emotions tied to that one play, and knowing that what it meant for their legacy, both as a team but also individually. Because now you lead down this road where there was resentment there. Like, that single decision created resentment between the defense, the offense, players towards Russell. Remember, there was that thought that they wanted Russell to be the MVP, and that's why they did it. Now, I don't think that went into it. But the reality is that was what some people thought around the Seahawks, maybe within the Seahawks, and it eventually created this fracture that leads us kind of all the way down this road of now Richard Sherman's not there anymore. He goes and plays for a competitor, the division rival, if you will.
Has a serious injury.
And then he has a serious injury. Yeah. He becomes a free agent.
Now
and I just think it's hard to deal with the emotions of when your career is starting to come to an end, not having that identity anymore. Like, that's the thing that I think is so difficult for every professional athlete, and it's one of the reasons why you see towards the end these sorts of moments end up potentially happening, because it's so hard, even for a guy who is on the leadership there with the NFLPA, a guy who's going to be able to do whatever he wants when he's done playing football, because he's so smart and he's articulate and he's the type of guy that when you're around him, he can make you laugh, he'll make you smile. Even they deal with these sorts of problems.
Sometimes
even
they're
they
the most
feel
conflicted.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're the most
and I think it's in part too because he reached like the pinnacle. Mm-hmm. Like, he was that guy. He was that guy that when receivers went up against him, he locked them down for a period of time. There is an element of power and fame, everything else that comes from it with that. And then it's hard to get to a point where you're like, I'm not that guy anymore. Like, who am I now? If I'm not that Richard Sherman, then who am I now? And that can lead to a bad place. And that could lead to maybe one of the issues we're talking about with what happened yesterday.
So on the subject of Richard Sherman, and I think about this because early on, my mind would have never gone this way. I would have never thought to be like, if I were in their shoes, I don't think I would behave this way. Mm-hmm. And this is not to excuse Richard Sherman, because I think also an element of this is when you see domestic violence pop up in a news headline.
You immediately think somebody hurt a woman.
Yeah, you think Greg Hardy, you think all these other incidents in which there's been really bad domestic violence. Not that any of it's good, but the really bad stuff to a wife or whatever. This reportedly is not the case. It's labeled as that, but it's a different. It was
domestic though, because he did get tangled up with the uncle.
Yes,
apparently,
but I think people assume it's a female on the other side. That's where this goes. Yes, immediately. And so one of the things that I always think about now is if you told somebody listening right now, all right, whatever you love the most, whatever you've worked hardest in your life, made sacrifices for, and done your entire life has been dedicated to this one thing. And then all of a sudden, it was just gone, and you were like 30 years old. How the hell would you handle it?
You go get a motorcycle without having a license or any lessons, and you go jump on a highway, and you go at an excessive speed, and then you end up hitting a guardrail, and you're lucky to be alive. You break an arm, you jack up your leg, and then you wake up, and your wife is standing over top of you like, thanking God that you're okay, and then they tell you you're still not out of the woods because you still have to be able to pass and get things out of your system, or you're going to go into kidney failure. Like, that happened to me. Like, it's very difficult from going from Superman to mortal. Even in the movie Superman, it was hard for Christopher Reeves to handle when he said, I want to be a normal guy so I can be with Lois. And then he gets into the diner and he realizes that he can't win a regular street fight because he's a civilian now. It's kind of like what it is for football players, especially guys who, made a living off of beating guys up. I brutalized guys. That's what I was known for, was being a super physical guy. When you transition into being a civilian, is what I call it, military kid. When you transition into being a civilian, there are a lot of things that you have to deal with. And I thought I was one of the good ones. Like, I handled it. In my mind, I thought I handled things well. But there's still that mental, emotional aspect of the fame, the coming out. And, I played in front of 100,000 people at times. At the raising of my hand, an entire stadium is attached to every movement that you make. That's hard to replace the feeling that you get riding the bus on Saturday morning or coming out on Sunday morning. It just is very difficult to ever explain to a person who's never experienced how intoxicating and how that feels to a person, and then it's gone, or that it may be gone.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that that's what this is attached to.
There's got to be some element of him seeing his own mortality.
It's possible.
He's got to be seeing his own career coming doing that, and just based on where he's at in his career.
I'm not going to speculate it, Brady, but I will say this. You have to be, I don't care if it's quarterback to wide receiver to linebacker, safety, going into it, you have to be wired a certain way to play this sport. And that's just what so there's no getting around the mental aspect of how tough you have to be when you're a football player.
I think there's some guys who can flip a switch, can flip that switch, and there's some guys who have a hard time turning it off. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part, is you'd like to think, because I think for the vast majority of people out there, they're the same, right? They're the same guy before they go to work, when they go to work, when they go home, or whatever the case may be. And for football players, especially for the job you had to do, it's different as a quarterback and the way we think or the way we view the game, unique in and of itself. Mm-hmm. But for what a lot of other guys have to do, or you talk to guys who are in the trenches, guys who don't even touch the football, they're in a one-on-one fight for 4 quarters.
Sometimes 1-on-3, one on 4, and that is no fun.
Aaron Donald is in a 1-on-3 fight
every single play.
Yeah. And that's a mentality that it's hard to turn that switch off, man. It's hard to do that, and I think it's hard for them to relate because they've never turned that switch on in the first place. They've never been pushed to have to turn that switch on or been in the position in their life to have to turn the switch on. And most people don't understand with football players is we've learned how to turn it on at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's been ingrained in us for such a long period of time that then when you get to that point, you almost forget that you have to turn it off, or you don't want to turn it off because you, as you said, intoxicating.
Mm-hmm.
All those feelings that come around with being an NFL player, having that power. You talked about the power of sticking your hand up and getting a crowd to react to what you do. I was telling Jonas the other day, you know, there's one thing about making the crowd cheer when you make a good play. There's nothing better than going into an away stadium and being able to silence people.
Quiet. Yeah.
That is one of the most powerful things you can do.
True.
And it's one of the coolest things that you can do as an athlete.
True.
So that's an intoxicating thing, man. And for a lot of guys, they either can't switch it off or they don't want to switch it off because they don't want to feel like everyone else on the other side of things.
This is Outkick the Coverage.
We got a quarterback making comments. We are going to get to the bottom as to whether or not this guy's telling the truth, and that'll happen here coming up just a couple of moments from now. He's LeVar Arrington. That guy's Brady Quinn. I'm Jonas Knox. It's Outkick the Coverage here, Fox Sports Radio. You can hang out with us on the iHeartRadio app. You can find us on hundreds of Fox Sports Radio affiliates, and wherever the hell you are making us a part of your Thursday morning, we appreciate you doing so, and we're taking you all the way up until 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Pacific, right here on Fox Sports Radio. What the hell's happening on Thursday morning, guys? How we feeling?
I mean, just trying to create a little revisionist history sometimes. You know, sometimes when we say something in the past, you try to make it seem like, maybe you didn't say it that way or the way it was portrayed and all that. Sometimes
I see what
I don't know
you're
if you guys have ever. I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, LeVar. I mean, have you? I've done it. I know I've done it. I don't know if you guys.
Hey, Brady, I've not done it as well as Jonas has. You know, that's all I'll say.
Okay,
I have not done it as well as him. Bro.
Yeah, you know what? I've been known to do that from time to time, but that's the way I see whether or not people are still listening. Because if I say something in hour 1, I'll say the opposite in hour 3, and that'll tell me if they've listened for the whole 3 hours. So that's how I gauge the ratings here.
I'm clearly not as good at revisionist history on this show as Jay Wilson on our Twitter feed would like. You know, my bad. I'm sorry that our chemistry isn't as good as it should be with Jonas and Brady. But you know what? I feel like I'm with the bros right now, man. I feel like we got to crack out a nice little cerveza while we're doing this and sing some more AC/DC and have at it for another 2 hours. That's what I'm feeling.
And listen, at some point we need to have the discussion. Actually, a couple of food discussions here. We need to check in with the food coma Brady Quinn is dealing with because he had about 17 pounds of chicken parm yesterday.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
And you and Roberto.
You should taste my chicken parm, by the way.
You make good chicken parm too?
Oh, I do, bro. I do.
You and Roberto need to have a cook-off.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the other discussion because Roberto is a hell of a cook. He also is an expert on the cerveza market. That's the other. All right,
I have not tried the one you sent me. By the way, I got sidetracked.
Have you tried Bohemia?
No. Is that the same one you told me?
No, and I refuse.
You got to send it to me.
Yeah, and I refuse to give them a plug here on the air. I'm not doing that here until you plug me. I'm not plugging you.
I could
How's
dig
that?
It.
That's my philosophy.
Hey, that's good savvy.
Can we F8 that comment from Jonas there? By the way,
I'm not plugging you unless I'm not plugging you unless you plug me. What's wrong with that?
Hey, you see how he changed topics of how we're discussing things right now, too, Brady. You know, you took him down the rabbit hole. He came right back out of that bad boy. You know what I mean?
So let's hear from Russell Wilson. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but he has had himself an interesting little offseason.
I mean, him and Sierra are on some serious branding right now.
But don't worry. Go Hawks. He's all about the Hawks. Even though he's got his own logo on a private plane and all the other stuff that goes along with it. And he was on the Dan Patrick Show yesterday. This was also the first appearance since the initial initial comments that sparked the trade rumors and that wildfire that seemed to spread for about a week in sports talk radio and beyond of potential Russell Wilson being dealt, unhappy with the Seahawks organization. So his first appearance back on the Dan Patrick Show heard yesterday on many of these Fox Sports Radio affiliates, and here's how it sounded.
I just wanted to know why you didn't look like you were having a good time. And then it felt like you wanted or welcomed the opportunity to get this off your chest. Is that fair?
No, I think that more than anything else, like I said, we had all the end of the year stuff that we had to do, and I think more than anything else, we just had a dialogue, conversation, and I think it was definitely blown out of proportion in terms of the moment and what it became. It was a little unfortunate, but I think more than anything else, what I care about? I care about winning. That's what I want to do. That's why I put my cleats on every day, and that's always been my focus. That's always been my goal. Is to win it all and to continue to do that and try to do everything we can. Pete and I, we've always had a great bond, but we got to have a great heart to heart. And just he's got goals. I have goals. We want to do great things. So to actually really dive into those and really talk about those missions, those goals, it was fun. So and so I think me and Coach Carroll's relationship is stronger than ever.
Did you ever think you were going to be traded in the offseason?
I think that any time in sports there's a potential of being traded. I think there's always a real opportunity to that. But, I think that, I've always wanted to be in Seattle. I've always loved being there. And it's a place that I've always wanted to play. So it's been great.
This guy's so full of crap, man.
Hey, bro. When you speak as well as Russell Wilson and you say or you know what I mean, or you stutter
come on, man,
more than 3 or 4 times in delivering a thought, you are lying. Russ, I'm sorry. You my guy. Big Ten through and through. You lied.
Oh, you're claiming Russell Wilson?
Well, he's a Wisconsin guy.
He's at NC State for like 4.5 years.
He transferred.
Did it sound like he just woke up to do the interview? I mean, it did. It sounded like
or was going to sleep.
Can we? Yeah. Can we play that versus the Go Hawks? They got the middle of the night one?
Yeah,
because it sounded very similar.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Oh my gosh, that was a different voice. That was the
Mr. Unlimited. You got to be unlimited.
I know that I'm a great football player.
Yeah.
I know I've been great. I know I will be great.
Yeah.
I know I'll continue to be great.
This guy, man.
There you go.
This guy, like one of the great magic tricks.
Y'all go to bed.
Oh yeah.
I know that's right.
One of the great magic tricks in all of sports.
Hey, Seattle, we got a deal.
Russell Wilson.
Rich sex. That's what that is.
That is. I was thinking it. I'm just glad you said what I was thinking. Thank you, Brady.
It's listen,
and it's much better than broke sex. I'm gonna just tell y'all that for sure. It's way better. It's way better.
I would know.
Planking.
There's one aisle I know. Here's one of the great magic tricks ever pulled is Russell Wilson trying to convince everybody, and the fact that he was able to do so, that he was all about the team, man. Had nothing to do with Russ. Never mind, let Russ cook. All I do is care about winning. Yeah, then why'd you complain when they wanted to run the football more? Okay, I don't buy this guy for a second anymore. I'm done.
I mean, this is like a classic at bat, or like in baseball, in like a game, right? Like you go up there, he played baseball. I mean, you tried to maybe make some waves. Maybe you tried to go somewhere else, and you tried to do it in a public fashion. And you struck out. It didn't work out, right? And now he comes back to the plate. He comes back to DP.
You got another shot.
And
you better clean it up. You better make contact.
Yeah. Now he's doing a sacrifice, right? He's doing a sacrifice bunt to move the runner over, and he's going to sacrifice for the team in this.
You know what it is? You guys ever go to a place that's got a bunch of different bars around? You leave one because you think it's boring. You go to another one, you realize it's more boring, and you have to walk back in with your head down.
The shame of walking back in. Shame of walking. You know what this is. I would love to see Pete Carroll's facial reaction to these sound bites on camera? I mean, how cool would that be? Because honestly, I can only imagine somebody, the team at Seahawks facility probably put this in front of them and said, like, make sure you know that this is what Russ said, this and that. I know Pete to himself was sitting there thinking to himself, like, man, I don't fool with him. He don't fool with me. We don't fool with one another. What is this dude talking about? When I chop his head off after this season, I want to come back to this soundbite that we just listened to. Because that's what Pete is thinking right now. I mean, who gets thrown under the bus as crucially as Pete Carroll did during the time, like, revisionist history. You used that earlier, Brady. Yeah. Revisionist history. Like, Pete Carroll has to answer to no one in Seattle. Do we not remember this stuff coming out?
Yeah.
Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's not going to let Russ be Russ. Pete Carroll can't get Russ to where Russ needs to be. Like, these are all things that were taking place in the media, and now everybody's on a kumbaya moment. Like, I would have loved to have seen Pete Carroll's face, man.
I mean, LeVar, we had talked about this way back during OTAs, and do you remember, Jonas, when Pete Carroll standing up for his press conference? It was like one of their first ones. And then Russ jumped in right away, kind of hugged him, and like took the stage from him just to get like the first comment in.
Let you know we're all still friends. Yeah, that
right.
Whole thing.
That was the first moment where I was like, "Ooh," like that felt uncomfortable to me watching it. Like, "Oh, you've got a power play going on here." Like,
don't you do it, Pete.
I'm just
let me give you this hug. Let me give you this hug. Don't you do it, Pete. I can see it in your eyes.
Yeah.
Don't
Before
do
you
it.
say anything controversial, let me just go ahead and squash this. Whatever you're going to say.
If you say it now, I gave you a hug. You look bad, and I look great.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh.
I don't know, man.
It's just the whole thing is. So if he's saying, being traded is part of the deal, and he tried to downplay it to Dan Patrick and all that, and tried to, listen, it's first of all, Dan Patrick's the best interview on the planet. I would put him up there with, Joe Rogan, Howard Stern, like some of the great people that do interviews. Now, nobody goes on weekend overnight, so I don't really get practice of that. But the point is, he did a great job of just saying, I gave him multiple opportunities. Like, it felt like you just wanted to vent. Oh, no. Okay, then why did his agent give a list of 4 teams?
A list of 4 teams. Come on, man.
So none of this is true. It was all blown out of. Let me tell you, there's one thing to be blown out of proportion. Like if you tell somebody, "Hey, man, there was a fire at the house," then you get there and somebody left the lighter on, and then there's a big difference between blown out of proportion and here's a list of teams we'd be willing to accept a trade to.
I like where you went there, Jonas, and the interesting part about that is. We're talking about, what about trades? Well, trades are known to take place, but you were trying to facilitate a trade. There is a difference between facilitating a trade and being on the trade block. It's 2 separate deals, and we all know there's a difference there.
Hey, Brady, if your agent went rogue and put a list of 4 teams that you were willing to accept a trade to, what would have happened?
You fire him. You fire him hands down. But so think about this. Think about this for a second, okay? You got to think about the timing of this year, how everything went. These comments came out shortly after the Super Bowl, in part because, by the way, LeVar, have you ever attended a Super Bowl when you were playing, when you guys weren't a part of it? Have you ever attended one?
Well, I've never been a part of a Super Bowl one way or the other, Brady. I never played in one, never got close to one, never went to see one.
The same here, man.
We kind of figured that, Jonas. But no, in all seriousness, like same thing. I never wanted to go when I was playing if we weren't going to be playing.
Correct.
And then afterwards, I was like, I don't know. It kind of has like that bitterness to it.
Yeah.
So I don't know any player that's there that is still playing that is all smiley anyway. Like, no one's going to be happy about being there and not being.
He's all about that camera time, man. Like, Russ is all about, he's gone. Like, Russ is trying to transition into being a brand and a personality recognizable beyond the parameters of football. That's what's going on.
And in order to do that, you have to get to a bigger market or the biggest market. And I think what happened was because Robert Saleh
or Mary Sierra.
But go ahead. That helps. That helps.
I mean, you got a different.
That helps. But, I mean, you got to get to – because even both of you – because now you're a package deal. Mm-hmm. So you got to get to a bigger market. And I think when there was maybe a thought if we could get to New York, if we could be the quarterback of the Jets. You've got a coach you're very familiar with in Robert Saleh. If you could get there. I think maybe that was the thought in the back of their minds. And as soon as they ended up, drafting Zach Wilson, that's gone by the wayside, at least for the short term. I think after this year, after a couple of years, we'll see where things sit. But I still think at some point there will try to be a move to get over there, given the familiarity with Saleh and given the fact that he would love to be able to turn that organization around. I think he looks at that as an opportunity, and obviously it would be great for Sierra, the entire family, and their brand.
Well, I have a tad bit of a different take on it. I think that it's not so much the market as it is the opportunity to do what Russ wants to do. If he can go to a Chicago, which was in play, a Dallas, which was possibly in play, Dallas would be an amazing place. Chicago would have been an amazing market to go to as well. But to go there and be able to say, because you remember he was bringing these points up when he was talking about getting traded, is I would like to have input on the players that are going to be coming in and playing for this team. Like, I want some involvement. And that, too, came from watching Tom Brady win a Super Bowl against the hottest quarterback in the game in Pat Mahomes, and them standing there or sitting there and watching it. Like, man, Tom Brady facilitated AB getting on, Rob Gronkowski getting on, like keeping the guys that are there, keeping them there. They felt as though Tom Brady had so much to do with the facilitating and building out of that roster that it messed dudes up like Russell Wilson. It messed him up. And for some strange reason, Russ is now chasing what it is that he saw Tom Brady do and what he pulled off. And it's not going to happen. It's only happened once ever in the history of our game. It's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream. But don't tell that to Russ. And I think that's my take on it.
Be sure to catch live editions of Outkick the Coverage weekdays at 6 a.m. Eastern, 3 a.m. Pacific.
Hey, I'm John Middlecoff, and I host the 3 and Out podcast. Do you like football? Do you like the NFL? Do you like the NFL draft? Quarterbacks, coaches? Well, I talk about it all on the show. I used to work for Andy Reid as a scout. Now I give you my unfiltered and raw opinions on everything that goes on in the NFL. And you know we're talking college football because of how important the draft is year-round. Listen to the 3 and Out podcast with me, John Middlecoff, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It feels like everything we do online comes with some risk. Buying a pair of socks online sounds simple enough, but then the online store wants as much personal information from you as possible. What does your credit score, eye color, blood type, mother's maiden name, or social security number have to do with buying socks? No one wants to be unsafe online, but every time you give up info and privacy, you may give up a little safety too. Norton 360 with LifeLock helps keep your digital life safer with device security, a VPN to keep your Wi-Fi activity private, and identity theft protection all in one. No one can prevent all cybercrime or identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can choose to be safer online. Just opt in to cyber safety with Norton 360 with LifeLock. Join now and save 25% or more off your first year at norton.com/Fox. That's norton.com/Fox to save 25%. norton.com/Fox.
To show you how easy it is to file a claim with Geico, we hired a soap opera star.
Gracious me, my car has storm damage and I've had to file a claim. Could it possibly get worse? Will my claims team leave me for someone else? Someone less intense?
No. Actually, when you file a claim with Geico, you get your own dedicated claims team who promises to stay with you throughout the process.
Oh, I've never known such loyalty. I can't wait for the second season.
Geico. Great service without all the drama.
See, to throw Bob Marley on it, that's like kryptonite for me, man.
Why, you going to kick a hacky sack
I would
now?
love to jump on this one, but I'm not going to. I'm going to let Uncle Bob breathe.
It's Outkick the Coverage here, Fox Sports Radio. He's LeVar Arrington. He's Brady Quinn. I'm Jonas Knox. This is FSR. Coming up here in, we'll call it about 15 minutes, or we'll call it later on this hour. There is a discussion to be had about how soon and quick the favorite thing of many of you in the world of sports will return. All right, so that'll be happening here in about 15 minutes or so from now here on Fox Sports Radio. Right now, he is kind enough to join us here on FSR every single week. The great Petros Papadakis, AM 570 LA Sports, Fox College Football. Petros, you're on with Brady Quinn, Jonas, and LeVar Arrington. What the hell's happening?
What up?
Everything's all right. I can't get my machine to work, so I'm on the phone. But other than that, and I'm back from Seattle. But other than that, I'm happy to be here, and happy post All-Star game, everybody. That's when everybody's minds and hearts starts to turn to college football. In my world, that's when I start buying my magazines.
Your voice still sounds the same on a phone as well. So there was no fall off or any disappointment in how you sound, Pet.
Yeah, but you guys sound better to me.
Oh. You're a pro.
I bought this thing, so it will work, So when it doesn't work, I'm not a very good. You ever seen Zoolander?
Yes.
When they're trying to get the information out of the computer and they just start hitting it like apes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
And we got to be careful when we do that, of course. Yeah. But yes, I do remember that scene in particular.
Hey, Petros, what do you think of we were talking about the Trev Alberts hire as athletic director at Nebraska. It seems like Nebraska is going back to the good old days to try and bring back some success into the future. Does that mean that USC will bring you on as athletic director at some point here in the near future?
No, not there. USC is run like a bureaucracy or like some kind of corrupt government. USC is USC is a great example right now of how you can't run a football program from the university board or even the athletic director. It has to be run from a head coach who knows how to staff and has a vision. That guy has to have an identity for football. And when you talk about hiring the Urban Meyers and the Bob Stoops of the world to come and fix your program, you're not just hiring that guy to come and call plays or whatever. You're hiring him to staff, and you're trusting him to staff. Bob Stoops goes and finds Lincoln Riley, and he's not afraid to hire him and not afraid if that guy ends up taking his job. That's what he wants. Urban Meyer finds Ryan Day. He finds Tom Herman to call plays from Iowa State. That's what great head coaches do. That's why you hire a really capable guy. And the example for USC is pretty glaring. It took them 8 months to hire an equipment guy, and they have not even been able to do that. They ended up hiring an interim guy. And it's not really that big of a deal, but it shows you how hard it is just to get anything done when you don't have a head coach who's really in charge. Now, as far as Nebraska goes, I did a Nebraska game, I think, 2 years ago, and I know Scott Frost a little bit just from his Oregon days and his West Coast time. And, he told us straight up, like, hey, this ain't it. Like, I came here and these like I'll take the 55-year-old black shirts over the guys that were in the locker room here. With all due respect, he had some real personnel problems. And with all due respect to Mike Riley, who's one of my favorite coaches in the world, things personnel-wise really changed at Nebraska. But they're still catching up from cutting off the head of the greatest tree in the history of football, which was the Nebraska option. And when they got rid of that, and that's not something you could just start doing again. It was their whole identity. And when they got rid of that and they hired, what was it, Bill Callahan, that offensive? Yeah. When they hired him, that killed Nebraska football, and they're still trying to come back.
Tommy Frazier, Lawrence Phillips.
Yeah. That's right.
God rest his soul, poor Lawrence. I used to work out with him. He played in the.
What a gifted dude! Jesus.
He played in the Shrine game with him and my older brother were the captains of the Shrine game here in California, and I just remember just being probably the best running back I've ever seen in person.
Wow.
You know,
He was
and
amazing.
then you got Crouch, you know, and the way Frost used to run the rock there.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
they had it going, and they killed it themselves just because. Remember that guy, Tommy Zibikowski?
Yeah. I don't know that
He
guy.
was supposed to be. Isn't this true, Brady?
Yeah,
he was
true.
He was the number one recruit for Nebraska. He was going to be the option quarterback there.
Mm-hmm.
And Notre Dame got him to go back on it because they said, dude, you're not going to play pro football. I mean, fair enough. As an option quarterback, you better come here and play safety. And I guess Solich lost the recruit. Solich just retired at Ohio, as we all know. He lost Zibikowski, and that was panic time for Nebraska, and they decided to change their whole identity as a program. That's why you don't change your identity for a football recruit.
Wow. You know, it's funny. We were talking about, you know, what's been a piece of their downfall. We talked about the changing of conferences and all that, but one of the things we didn't have time to talk about was their identity. Like, Nebraska now no longer has an identity as far as what they're recruiting to, because I always feel like that's the lifeblood of your program. And so if you don't know what you are or what you excel at or what pitch you're giving a family or that son, it's going to be hard to recruit. Now, I know this is kind of coming off on a tangent, but I read an interesting article yesterday, Petros, from our Bruce Feldman at Fox Sports, and he was talking about he took a poll of coaches in Southern California, maybe even the entire state, and he was talking about the recruiting pitches of USC and UCLA versus everyone else around the country who's coming to the state of California, whether it's NIL or any other pitch. I don't know if you had a chance to read that, but he was kind of talking about the stark contrast not only between those two schools, but why so many other schools have been able to come into California, which is a very, you know, football-rich state as far as talent and recruits, but why they've had so much success. Why do you think that is? Why have so many people been able to come into that state now and poach out some of the best players, and USC and UCLA not keep them in-house?
Well, you played football with guys from California at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many were at Penn State with LeVar.
One.
Yeah. So
one.
It's, you know, but as far as like the University of Washington, Oregon, Arizona State, I mean, they all have California players. Everybody throughout the Pac-12 and Mountain West. That's always been the case. And there were always guys that went to Ohio State or Texas or something like that, or Notre Dame in my day. But there's a few reasons, and I don't know what Bruce is talking about. Look, name and likeness and all that, it doesn't matter unless you're any good. Like, you could have all the videos where you're dancing on the field at USC and swagging out and getting a 12-man on the field penalty because you're taking a photograph. But if you're 500 at USC, nobody cares. You know, win football games. And you got to put that ahead of whatever individual stuff you're trying to do. Now, I get it and the nuances of it, but look, West Coast football is down for two reasons. The Pac-12 has a horrible TV deal and had a terrible commissioner, one of the most counterproductive executives in the history of football, and we're suffering. And in that time, with all due respect to him, USC's been terrible. And USC is the one that moves the needle for everybody around the country when it comes to the West. So those two things are wrong with our conference. When you look right now at the four of the best schools, and the JT Daniels thing is a little complicated because he was at USC, but he's starting at Georgia. Bryce Young is starting at Alabama, who's from Mater Dei. DJ Uiagalelei is starting at Clemson, who's from Bosco. And now a kid from the Rancho Cucamonga area, like where Eric Weddle and Darren Collison are from, C.J. Stroud, he's going to be the starter at Ohio State. Those are all Southern California quarterbacks, not even California. And that's an issue that none of those guys, and Keaton Slovis is starting at USC, who's a 3-star guy, and he's a good player, but what is wrong with that? Yeah, from Arizona. So what is wrong with that picture? Those guys, at least two of them, need to be at USC or UCLA. That's where they would have been in my childhood, conceivably. Now, I don't know if you want to bite this, Brady, but you kind of have to. I think California quarterback play is by far the best in the country. And there's a lot of reason everybody wants a California quarterback, whether you're talking about Brady White at Memphis or, whoever else, the kid at Arizona State now.
I think they're the most developed.
How's that feel, Brady?
No, they're the most developed. I think when you look at guys like Steve Clarkson, George Whitfield, those guys put that quarterback coaching
Palmer
career on the map. Like, they made it a thing.
They're all out here. Achilles Smith, they're all out here training.
They're all. And so those guys put it on the map. And then now I think you get a much more skilled, talented, refined quarterback out of California than you probably do in the Midwest, in Ohio, and maybe Pennsylvania. Now, what happens after that, we'll see. But I think the specialization started earlier, too, for kids in Cali. Like, when I was young, because, it
started with Bob Johnson. That's the original quarterback.
And Elite 11 and all that. Yeah, you're right.
Rob Johnson's dad.
Yep. And so, but I think kids in California probably specialize sooner too than kids maybe in the Midwest, where you were playing 3 sports, because in the winter you weren't going outside throwing a football.
Right.
After football you're going to basketball, then you're going into whatever the sport's next, and maybe it was a little slower migration to the specialization that maybe you saw in California.
Well, one of the things I refuse to believe is that you can't develop people up front in the West and you can't be physical in the West. I think that that's a lazy, stupid, kind of ridiculous, antiquated way.
They're physical out here.
Yeah, you can be physical.
Yeah.
You can be. You just have to dedicate. Like, you can put on a little wetsuit and run around and do 7-on-7 all summer and look pretty, but that ain't it. And you have to be bludgeoning and dedicated to it. And if you look, Oregon is physical every day. They have great fronts. They've built themselves from the front. They're going to have a game against Ohio State early, and we're going to get to see how they match up. And if the West Coast football wants to come back, they're going to have to start dedicating themselves to developing offensive and defensive linemen, along with great quarterbacks and innovative offense.
I'll never forget 2014, watching that national championship game with you, Oregon, Ohio State, and your reaction to Oregon and just the pummeling they took, the physical pummeling they took in that game. You were distraught, to say the least.
Well, look, you can't run a zone read if the 3 technique is 5 yards deep right at the snap.
I think you kicked the couch at one point.
Well, that's what happened. The most watched college. Look, we need more teams involved, and we need the whole country involved. And the most glaring thing about that is the most watched college football game of all time, I think, is Auburn-Oregon. Now, Cam Newton versus Chip Kelly. Now, you remember where Eugene, Oregon is. There's not much going on there. I don't know how many of us have been to Auburn, Alabama. I have. And there ain't nothing there. So why did everybody watch that game? Well, the whole country was involved. And I forget the name of that big Alabama or big Auburn.
The Iron Bowl.
Yeah, but I forget the name of the guy right at the 3 technique for. He did that to Oregon. They just couldn't. They couldn't.
Was it Farley?
Yeah.
Fairly.
Nick Farley.
It's hard to run your little quick-hitting vertical run game when that dude is in the backfield right at the snap. But that was a close game and a lot of fun to watch. But I think Oregon's doing a better job developing up front. Obviously, Stanford lost a lot when they lost the coach, Mike Bloomgren. They kind of lost their physical mentality, the guy that went to Rice. They have to find it again. Washington is the team with Jimmy Lake, who's dedicated to defense and running the football. We'll see what they do in year 2 without COVID as a hindrance. There's excellent secondary coaching with Jimmy Lake and Justin Wilcox in the Pac-12, but there is no head of the snake. And I don't know if Oregon is explosive enough or if they want to be explosive enough on offense to be that, to really get after people. I mean, you look at Justin Herbert at Oregon, and then all of a sudden you see him his first year with the Chargers, and you're like, you guys didn't want to throw the ball downfield at all with this guy? You didn't, Like, why is this a revelation to us? So you wish he'd be just a little bit more creative on the offensive side. But, I have some hope for those Northwestern teams. But, I mean, LeVar, you know this. And, guys, like, if you sit here and tell somebody from Iowa about the Oregon football team, they laugh at you.
Yeah.
It's USC or UCLA or nothing to them. And those teams aren't carrying the ball for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's how it works.
He's Petros Papadakis, AM 570 LA Sports. You can get him on Twitter at the Old P, Fox college football analyst and one of our favorites. Petros, we always appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for the time.
Oh,
Thanks,
it's my
Petros.
pleasure. Hardcore football talk in the morning.
Yeah. It's coming. It's coming.
little high school, college football, multi-level conversation here when it comes to football.
Could you imagine him giving you a pregame speech with that voice?
Oh, man.
You feel like you're listening to like rock.
Rocky's
Newton.
trainer.
No. What was
Newt Rockne?
Newt Rockne, yeah, there you go. Or someone like